Saigon was the Paris of the Orient. And my father said, now that sounds good, doesn't it?
We had never heard of Vietnam. It was a foreign word. We didn't even know it was a country.
It was pretty much a normal teenage life, but not in the States. It was in Saigon.
I forget the woman's name, but she kept telling us all these horror stories about finding snakes in your closets and, you know, all these bugs and everything, and then we were going, oh my goodness.
We'd go off on these motorcycles and do crazy, crazy things.
David took me aside and he said, here's what we do here. We smoke, and he gave me a cigarette, and we have motorbikes, and so we got on his motorbikes, we go to bars, and we find prostitutes. This is what we do here.
It's like my own private Eden, my own Saigon, my own private Vietnam.
Not only was the Viet Minh, Viet Cong activity stepping up, but there was increased divisions within the South Vietnamese military and government, so it was very clear that things were going to be difficult for some time.
It was almost like you could feel that the tensions were building, and this was even in '62, early '62. I just would remember I would see more police or military around, that sort of thing. It just seemed like things were ratcheting up.
And the bamboo bar got blown up at least once a week, and it was made out of bamboo. So the main thing you had to be careful of, aside from being too close to the bomb, was the flying bamboo slivers.
You know, there's something I always remember my father telling me, though. It wasn't so much the politics of the time, I guess. He said, someday you're going to be in a war over here. And he told me that in about 1960.
The presidential palace was attacked. There were a lot of planes flying over the school, and everybody's trying to figure out what was happening. And since I was so little, I didn't realize that they were flying to the palace, and that Mom was in the house at the time, right nearby. And it was only later that when we got home, we found out that she, was hiding behind the refrigerator and was very, fearful for her life.
My father, he said, this is a revolver. I didn't know the first thing about it. And I said, well, who am I supposed to shoot? He said, anybody coming over the gate. If they're climbing over our gate, it's because they're invading, and they're looking for Americans, and they're not going to take us for ransom, they're going to kill us.
We were the children of American diplomats, teachers, businessmen, military, and even CIA. We knew very little about war or politics, but in Saigon we were about to learn everything about life. Saigon, a war not our own. In the fall of 1961, when I was 13 and my brother was 6, we arrived in Saigon, Vietnam. When we first got there, it was considered the Paris of the Orient. But by the time we left 14 months later, it was fast becoming a war zone, and our family had fallen apart. I grew up to become an actress and a producer, and over the years I found a lot of the other Americans who were children in Saigon at that time. Where we are all over the world and who we have become will show you how we face life after Saigon. The history of Vietnam before we arrived and while we were there, as well as what we experienced, will be juxtaposed with home movies and American news reports of that time. We are working on a documentary that we hope will be in all schools and libraries, so that people all over the world can learn about a critical and important part of history. We have a lot of stories to tell. Please help us share our history.